What's up, everyone? Kevin from Epic Gardening here. Special day. You may have seen my continuous flow through worm system, aka the urban worm bag, on a previous video. Steve from the Urban Worm Company is actually here in San Diego, so he's the owner and the inventor of the bag. And so I figured, why not talk to the man, the myth, the legend? We all have problems in our vermicomposting bins, and there's one problem that we do that causes most of the things you think are problems. You know, smelly bags, hot bags, too much moisture. It's all because of this one thing that you're doing. So, Steve, first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about the bag, but then why don't you reveal to us the secret that we're doing? What are we doing wrong with our worm bins? Yeah, the secret.
Okay. Well, all right. Thanks, Kevin. So the urban worm bag, what it does is it's called continuous flow, which leverages the tendency of worms to go up into layers of food that's above them. They leave their castings below, and as you layer food and bedding over time, what happens is the worms are at the top of the bin, and just straight up worm castings are at the bottom.
Right.
And so we feed right here through the top, and then through the zipper and drawstring bottom, we can just take castings out. That typically takes about 4 to 6 months for that to happen.
Right. Which is effectively the same process as a stackable tray, but you're just removing the moving pieces.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So this is lower labor, and I think gives a higher margin of error for the problem we're about to talk about.
Right. Right.
So the main thing that people do with their worm bins of any kind, not just the urban worm bag, is they overfeed. So everybody hears that you can do 50 to 100% of the worm's weight in food every day. So people order a pound of worms,
Yep.
stick them in there, and then just feed a pound of food every day. And then what happens is a whole lot of bad things happen, actually.
Yeah.
The food starts to rot. So the worms cannot eat the food as fast as it's decomposing, so it starts to rot. It can start to heat up the bin, so things actually start hot composting.
That's something I actually
instead.
did when I had a stackable 3-tier DIY tray system a tote system.
Yeah.
I opened it up one day and it was steaming, and I was like, okay, well, and all the worms were to the side because they're
Yep.
running from the heat, and
Yep.
so I had to put it out on the ground and actually lay it all out and cool it down, and then sort of layer it in a way where it wouldn't start heating back up again.
Right.
And so that was probably because I overfed it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the other thing too is food waste, especially fruits and vegetables, tend to be very high in water content. Probably 80-90% of most fruits and vegetables are 80 to 90% water content. So when you're putting that in there, when you're overfeeding, you're also making your bin too wet, especially if you're not adding a carbon material like paper, coconut core, cardboard in there.
So like you're saying, the water content of food has like two problems, because if you're going to overfeed, then it's going to decompose, start rotting, and release that moisture. And if you're not adding browns in there or carbon materials that are a little bit drier, you run into a whole host of other issues, right?
Right, so the food will just kind of stack on top of each other. It'll start rotting, which is what creates the heat. It's what creates the smell. It's what attracts flies. And the other thing that the carbon will do, if you and you should be every 2 or 3 feedings, is adding paper, cardboard, something like that to the food waste, because it's going to help soak up that excess moisture that your food waste is going to have. So that's going to keep your bin nice. And I'd say you're looking for about 60%, 70% moisture. Not that you're able to really know what that is, but if your stuff is dripping when you take it out of the bin, or you're able to squeeze a whole lot of moisture out of it, then it's too wet.
Okay.
So adding that extra paper, cardboard, carbon source, whatever it is, that's going to keep the bin nice, and it's going to keep it nice and balanced. And so that's the thing too, is like if you are feeding a lot, make sure that you're adding a lot of bedding too. That's going to keep you out of a lot of problems.
That was going to be, so the 2 questions here. If I'm going to avoid overfeeding, let's say I start out with, for math's sake, 1 pound of worms. Obviously, I know now that they can't eat a pound of material, right?
Right.
And so what should I be, let's say I've got some banana peels, like how much by weight should I be adding in there?
So something like banana peels is actually safer because it is lower in that water content.
Okay.
But I would say to add about 25% of what you know your worm's weight is at the time, and it's honestly it's a little bit of dialing in on the feel of
it's
of
never
what's
be
going
perfect.
on. It's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So I would say this bin at its absolute max could hold probably about 6 pounds of worms. It's just the worms are actually really good self-regulators. They're going to stop reproducing once they reach a certain density. So that's going to be roughly, if you go to 25 to 33%, that's going to be about 2 pounds per day that the worms could
make their way through.
Could make their way through
At capacity, though.
At capacity,
Yeah.
And understand, as the bag, because the bag's tapered, it's not going to. It doesn't have the surface area that you would have when the bag is full. So it's going to actually effectively hold less worms than that.
Okay.
So you want to be very, very conservative in the beginning.
Yeah.
Feed just a little bit. The worms are not going to starve overnight. So I would feed a little bit, see how it's going. Over time, you can just start to experiment by adding a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah.
Once you see that they're really not processing it as fast as you thought they were, then you know that
it's sort of a dampering of it. You slow it down if you see they're not making their way through it. And then, so the second question I had after what's your recommended percentage by weight to actually add in is, if, let's say, you know, I have a big harvest out in the garden, which I just recently did, and I have so much scraps that either aren't going into my hot compost pile, which I have outside, or I just want to get them in here. Maybe I'm going to vacation for a while, something like that. If I am going to overfeed, and knowingly so, do I then put in an equivalent, like what's the ratio then of greens or scraps to the carbonaceous materials that I should be putting in to make sure that buffer's there?
That's a good question, because it depends on the density of the greens that you're putting in there, and how quickly they would break down. So if you had something that's a really rich material, like pumpkin, for instance. Worms love pumpkin, but it's extremely rich, and if you put too much in there, then you're going to cause problems in your bin that you wouldn't have if you put an equal amount of, say, broccoli stalks in there. Those things are very fibrous and break down over time. So with something like the pumpkin, you actually need a lot more paper or the carbon in there, and I would say add probably, you're looking at maybe 4 to 1 in terms of volume.
Oh wow!
So
that skewed.
Yeah, but that's to be safe.
Yeah.
The thing is again, it's not like you're going to reach a certain point and then all hell's going to break loose in the bin. But in order to stay nice and conservative and make sure that you're not, kind of overtaxing the bin and getting the greens, which are a nitrogen-rich source, too out of whack, then I would add that in, especially for those rich products.
Cool. Awesome. So guys, many more videos to come on worm composting. I'm sure we're probably going to do some more with Steve as well. Urban Worm Bag is I've done some DIY stuff, and I love the DIY stuff. To me, the continuous flow through aspect of it just makes my life easier. The trays, sometimes you've got flies coming in or larvae coming in, maggots, etc. Other things sort of infesting your compost and disrupting that ecosystem a little bit. To me, no smell. It's a fantastic thing, and I'm not just saying that because Steve's like right here and he'll probably crush my face if I didn't say it, but no, it's a fantastic product. It's not something that I would just say lightly. So, check out Steve, Urban Worm Bag, Urban Worm Company, and tell him you found him from Epic Gardening, and see, maybe I'll pressure him into giving you a little sweetheart deal or something. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
What do you want to do?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
I tell you what. Kevin10, if you go to urbanwormcompany.com, Kevin10 is your coupon code, and that'll get you 10% off the Urban Worm Bag.
Boom.
Only for Epic Gardening viewers.
Only for Epic Gardeners. All right. See you guys. Good luck in the garden. Keep growing. Keep worming. And we'll see you on the next video. Later.